Hey guys, today we're going to will be the second to last video tutorial. We're going to implement the database we did for adding a task, so we could view it in our view tasks div, and what we did in local storage to be able to edit our profile information. And then next time we're going to do web data using logins, and also web data on our view task div to see other people's tasks, and then we'll have a fully functional application. Okay, so the first thing, this tutorial is dependent on you have been doing database homework. So if you haven't done that yet, do the relational database homework, because you'll be able to just copy and paste the database we've done and drop it into our project, which is a good way to do projects. Now, next time you do a database project, you could drag and drop your existing database JavaScript and just tailor it to what you're doing. Okay, so I'll give you a second. What I'm going to do is go into my CPT 373 folder for my project, and I'm going to go into the JavaScript folder, and we're going to create a new JavaScript. So let me go into Notepad++, and I'm going to save it as, and let's go into desktop, and obviously you guys have maybe different folders. I'm going to my CPT folder and then my JavaScript folder, and I'm going to save it as database.js. and where is my database? And I'm going to take what we did last week, where we initiated our database, and we opened it, created our table tasks, and we did our document.ready on select function, and we also did our insert function. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just copy and paste our document.ready function into our index file, our index.html. So let me grab index. And this is the same index that we've been using, so I'm just going to copy and paste. Oh, I already had the script tags. And I'm going to also go to the bottom and link our database.js. Alright, and we'll save. And now on load, and I think we have a document.ready function, so we're going to have to, no, we don't. Okay, so this will be our first document.ready function. We're just going to check if we have anything. If not, it's going to append to our list, but we're not going to have anything. So let's alert, just to make sure. You have no tasks. And our if our length of results are greater than 0, let's append our list, which we've done in our relational database. And then again, if there's nothing there, let's alert you have no tasks. So let's open, or let's refresh, and it didn't save, I'm guessing. Let's check it out. unless I saved it to the incorrect file. Okay, so all we do is we're gonna save, and we're gonna refresh, and it's gonna say we have no tasks. If you do, I ran the command to delete our tasks, and all you do is run an SQL statement that says drop table if exists and say tasks, because it might still be saved on your browser for since Chrome, since we did our database homework. Also, if you're making a project and you want to just refresh everything, you can just drop all the tables and it'll delete all the data and refresh. You'll get an error undefined, and then you just comment it out, and then we'll run our regular statement saying create table if not exists, and it should be cleared because it'll say no tasks found, and you should see here that your task table is empty. Okay, so if you ever need that in the future, this is to drop your table. Okay, so now that we have our tasks table in here, let's change list. Actually, we have to do a few things. Let's go down to our view tasks div that we have nothing in. We're going to add a sub navigation bar like we do in my profile, so we could see our tasks and other people's tasks, but this time it's only going to be divided into two. So let's say let's have div id equals sub tasks bar, and let's close our div, and within that div let's have div id equals our tasks, and div id equals others tasks, and we'll come back to that. I just wanted to put it in so it's there, and we're going to create another div called div id equals tasks target, and that's what I was more concerned about. And we're going to save and go back up to our function on load, and instead of it being list that we append to like we did in the homework, let's change it to tasks target. So now that if we do have any tasks, it'll go into the correct div even though it's not styled yet. Okay, and what we're going to do is go back to our database HTML homework, and we're going to be able to copy and paste this whole JavaScript that we have for inserting, and we're going to paste it right here in our database.js file that we created. Okay, and we should have submit task.click function, and then our variables for our task name input, our task name length, to make sure that we have at least 4 characters as our task name, our description value from our text input, our text area for our task description, and the due date value, which is our due date field, which we will also be doing something to today. And we have our execute SQL statement. Again, it starts down at the bottom. It says, hey, we're going to use this database, and then it's going to run the DB transaction function, which says, hey, I want to populate my database. Is there an error or was it a success? And it will run the two based on whichever it was, and it's going to run txsq SQL create table if not exist tasks, with our fields, and then it'll run the insert function to use our variable created, name, description, and do, and then just post the values from our input fields. Okay, so now what we want to do is change submit task to confirm task, because that's the name of our button. And let's save, and it should work. So what we're going to do is try it out. And actually, let's get rid of that alert, because that's going to get annoying. Okay, so let's refresh and let's add a task. Homework to be a good. And it just put in anything random, and I just want to see, and it would say success, or it should say success. And the way we check it is go to our to-do database and to our tasks, and we should have our homework, our name, our description, and our do is undefined. Let's see why. Oops. And due date, is it called due date? Let's see. Oh, and it's date due, not due date, and we had to switch it from the homework. And then now let's try again. Okay, now let's try to see, and everything is okay. Okay, so just change due date to date due, and everything will be okay. Now, when you submit a task, or say you want to cancel a task, we still have these values here. So if I press cancel and now I go back, these will still be here. We don't want that. What we're going to do is we're going to clear our inputs and our text area. So the way we do that is we're going to run another function. Okay, we're going to call it function clear tasks, and this is going to be used by both the cancel task button and the submit task button, because it's going to do the same thing. It's going to clear out these inputs, and it's also going to hide our wrapper. It's a good way to not write so much code, and it's a shared functions shared by both cancel and submit. So we're going to condense it so we don't have to write so many lines of code. So the first thing we want to do is get the name of our form. Okay, so what we're going to do is say we're just going to 1, 2, 3. We're going to copy and paste we're going to copy all these, and then we're just going to tailor them to what we need, since we don't want to type. Okay, so let's get rid of the variables, because we're actually going to we don't need length. Okay, so what we have here is we're going to say function clear task, and then we're going to say task name dot value, and then we're going to put two double quotation marks. So instead of declaring, we are going to be declaring a value. Instead of getting it, we're going to be setting it, and by putting two double quotes, it'll clear it. So let's run it after we have a success. Instead of alerting, we're going to say clear tasks. And let's see what happens. And as you can see, if it's a success, it all clears. So let's go back to our index page, and we're going to grab some other attributes from our cancel task button. So where do we have it? Let's go down, and that's our, let's go back to index. And if we go down our index that we've been using, let's see, where is it? So if we say cancel task.click function, it should fade out my profile and hide the add task pop out. Let's cut, and we're gonna instead say clear tasks, and we're gonna just run that function instead. And because we want to do the same thing, if just in case you were typing in these three text areas or inputs, and you decide to press cancel, we need to be able to clear it as well. And so since we want both buttons to pretty much do the same exact thing, we're just going to put it in one function and not have to write so much JavaScript. So let's try it. And when we go back, there should be nothing there. And we should also try submitting. And it'll do the same exact thing with one function instead of having to write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines of JavaScript. I'm sorry, 10. We only had to write 5. You know, over the course of 10 or 15 functions, you know, that saves a good 100 something lines of coding. It's also, you know, after X amount of lines, it starts slowing your program down. So you want to make one-time functions as much as possible. Okay, so now that we could clear everything out and store it, we also have one other thing we want to do. We're going to grab, let's see, where is it, from the top over here of our index page. Let's grab our line where it says task target dot append, because we're going to also append our list right away, so it shows up as soon as we submit a task on our tasks div. So let's copy this line where it's trying to loop through the amount of tasks that we already have. I think actually if you check now, this should be there. Yep, we have our tasks now, the ones we've been doing. So let's see how it is after. So if we refresh, they'll still be there, but if I add a new one and I submit, I won't see it now, but if I refresh the page, it'll show up. So let's fix that, so as soon as I submit a task, it shows up. And we're just going to paste in our success, in our function success, we're going to paste task target dot append, and instead of these results dot rows, let's get rid of that. We're going to put we're going to replace ID with created variable, and name results dot rows dot item name, we're going to just replace with name, which is our name variable for our task name value. Then we're going to replace the description with just description instead of results of description, and that should be good. So let's save and let's refresh and try it. So as you can see, we are up to number 5 over here on the amount of tasks we have. So let's add a task and see if it works. And as you can see, it works. I just didn't have the ID. Instead, I just replaced it with the time, and now it comes up. And let's try another one. Perfect, and it'll come up once more again. Okay, obviously right now it's not formatted at all, but we'll fix that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is, okay, so what we're going to do is we want to add some user feedback when we add a task, because right now you add a task and nothing happens, so you don't know whether it was there or not, and you would have to check your View Tasks tab to even know it was there. So what we're going to do is, I'm sorry, hold on one second. And let's get rid of this. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to give you the URL in Moodle, but I'm sure you can't see it, so I'm just going to post it. And I'll just put it here on Notepad for a second anyway. And what it is just JavaScript that I found, and has dialogues. The one I have never used this before, but instead of having to make our own, if you look at the bottom right of my screen, if you add a task, you've got a cool little like log message, and once you click it, it'll go back by itself, and we're going to say that, hey, I added a task. So I already have put it in just now, and you put one in, and ooh, I have to change that. Hold on one second. Oh, and on our, let me just add it, I'm sorry. I'm going to add my function that I'll show you how to do it on your own. And let's just make sure it works. And 1, 2, 3, 4. And, oops, what the heck is happening here? Oh, oops, I'm putting it in the wrong place. And I'm going to put this here. And where's my... Hold on one second. There we go. Okay, so and that's how it'll look. It'll just be a success notification, and it'll go out on its own. And I'm just going to change the name to task added. So once you go on the website, what you need to do is go to the very top and press download. And once it downloads, the zipped file will come up, and what you're going to do is take out this whole folder that's to say Alertify and a bunch of weird numbers, and just make a new folder. And you want to take alertify.min and put it in your new folder. Go to themes, and you need alertify.core and .default and put those in your new folder as well. And then go to our project folder and dump the JavaScript file into the JS folder, and the two CSS files go into the CSS folders. And then what you're going to do is just go in our index.html page, and as you can see here, I have alertify core.css, underneath it alertify.default.css, and then at the bottom alertify.min.js, just like we've been linking everything so far this semester. And that's called the plugin, so we don't have to sit there for hours making our own notification system. We could use one that's already been made. Like I'm sure you've heard before, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel, especially that works pretty well. Okay, so once you have that linked, and I will be posting that URL on Moodle, by the way. So once you have that linked, you're going to go into your database.js JavaScript, and when we have our function success, we're going to alertify, which is their form or their function. It's saying alertify of the success is their green alert, and I thought that was fitting since we had the success. And it's going to say alertify the success, and then in our parentheses, like an alert, we're going to put whatever we want. You could put whatever. I put task added, and just press save, and it'll save. So every time we add a task, new task, and description, and blah blah blah, and our task was added. If we want to even get a little bit more intricate with it, we could go to our database.js, and before the parentheses we could say whatever the task name is. We could put name and then plus. So this is our name variable, and then plus would allow us to also add a string and put a space between the quotations and the first letter of T, so we get a space between the name variable and task. So whatever the title is will be in this string. So let's try it. So homework as the task name, and let's add it, and homework task added. So now whatever the title was, just to add a little bit of customization, and that we're paying attention to the detail of whatever the person is doing. So that new task was added, and it went away. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is, now that we have our entire database task module here, the last thing we're going to do today is we're going to put our sub-navigation bar and just really quickly style our list items. And then next week we're going to do our logins and requests from my server for other people's tasks, and we'll be done with our semester-long app. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a sub-navigation bar that we already created, and we're just going to give it some CSS. So let's open our CSS file, and I'm going to drag it into Notepad, and let's go all the way down to the bottom. And before that, actually, it should be sub profiles. And I think this is it. No, that's not it. What we're going to do is, since it's essentially the same thing as this bar, we're just going to see what the styles were, so we don't have to do too much extra work. So we're going to go to Profile Options bar. And I'm going to copy and paste, because it is exactly the same exact bar. And we're going to rename it to subtasks bar, and let's go to our index. And so you just copy and paste Profile Options bar, and at the bottom just make it subtext bar, and as you can see, it's here, and we didn't have to write all that extra CSS. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to change this from position absolute to position fixed, because as of right now it's absolutely here, but that doesn't mean when the scroll height changes it won't stay there, and we want it to. So even if we're scrolled all the way down and I press, I want to see other people's tasks, I can click this tab and it should be here at all times. Like if you've gone to most social networking sites, most of their navigation stuff stays even on the website and not just the app. So you can navigate out of anywhere quickly, especially if you have 100 tasks. You don't have to scroll all the way back up to change. So I changed it to position fixed, and now it should stay where it belongs, always here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our tasks target and we're going to bring it down. So I'm just going to do it in Chrome so I see how far we have to bring it down. I think 200 pixels should do it. Oh, I'm sorry, position absolute. Top 100 pixels, and it's going to be a little bit more than that, and 180 pixels should do it. So tasks target, let's do some CSS, and we're gonna make it position absolute, top 180 pixels to bring it underneath our navigation bar, left 0, and width 100%. Also, let's add a list style of none to get rid of the bullets. And let's save it and see what we get. And now we have, oop, that's a problem. If you see, when you scroll, it now goes over our sub-navigation bar. So what is that? If you remember, that's called the z-index, which is what is layered on top of each other. And as you can see here, our tasks are layered on top of our sub-navigation bar. So we have to change that. So let's add a z-index to our subtasks bar, z-index, and never make it 999 because that's going to be reserved for our loader. And z-index 997. And refresh, and now it has the appearance of going underneath, obviously. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to actually get rid of the IDs. So let's go to our index, and we're going to have to style this a little bit. So let's get rid of our where it says ID, and we're going to change that. Let's just cut it for right now. Let's cut it, and we're going to put it as an ID, LIID equals, and then a single quote to know that we're opening the ID in the string, and now we're closing the string, adding a variable with our plus signs. And instead of ID, let's put and I'm sure, created. And let's make this created, and I'll tell you why. Is when I click the list item and I want to delete it, created is also a unique time, and we're going to be able to target both the ones created when we're in our app and the ones on load, both by the time. If I use ID, I cannot do that with my uniquely created ones when we add them when we're inside the app. From here, I won't be able to get the ID because I'm just appending it to the list. I'm not requerying the database because that would be very memory heavy. So we're going to use time because the time is always going to be, the time is one of our variables. So I'll have the time readily available to me. So we're going to make our list ID our created, and now let's open up our string again and close the ID with a single quote, and now we have our LI. Oops. And let's make a let's actually delete everything else so we're not confused. And okay, so now let's get rid of our break as well. And now that we're back in our string, let's create a span class, and make sure you use single quotes here, otherwise it'll close the string and obviously you'll see black again instead of gray. Span, and span class of task name span, close the brackets, and then we're going to close our string plus, and we're going to copy and paste results. We want our variable results dot rows dot item, and whatever row number that is, our I is the incrementing I. So row 0, row 1, row 2, and it'll keep looping through the rows. And what field do we want? We want the field of name. And plus, and let's open up our string again. And let's close our span. Let's make a new span class equals description single quotes again. I'm sorry, task description span. And let's close the span and let's reopen it. I'm sorry. Let's close our string. And let's copy and paste our results with our plus signs, and we're going to add our description. And we're not doing anything different from our database homework, so I'm just kind of quickly going through this again because I went through it in detail last time. And we're going to again, close our open our string again, close our span, and close our LI. And then make sure you close the string again, and then put our brackets in our semicolon, because I know some of you are having problems with closing some of your tags and then nothing was working. And let's just give this an LI class of our task list, because we're going to give it some styles. We also want to copy and paste this whole entire thing, and we're going to put it back in our database.js and here, because we want to keep the same exact styles, and we're just going to change it back to our variables again. So let's change it to created instead of, let's get rid of the results.rows.item for every single one, and just keep the actual variable name, and we should be okay. Okay, so let's save. Oh, let me bring this back. And let's cancel, and let's go back to our tasks, and it didn't save because I didn't save it, and now it should not have any of that stuff. Let's just see if the spans are correct, which they are. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to give our li of our task list, and we're going to give it a margin so it's not hugging the wall. And we're going to give it a margin. Let's give it a margin of 10 pixels. Actually, you know what? Let's do margin 5%. Margin left 5%. And width 90%. So we have some padding, and I'm sorry, margin, and margin top 15 pixels. So let's get some space in between, and let's refresh, and now we have some space to work with. Okay, and let's give it some padding as well. Top 10 pixels. As a matter of fact, let's bring down our task list a little bit so it's not hugging when we no, actually we have to bring that back up. I apologize, because otherwise when we scroll up it won't look good. So let's bring it back up to 180. Just leave it. The first thing we're going to do is give it a background color. So let's give it a background color of, and let's go to the website CSS. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, CSS colors and Google, and let's pick a nice silvery background. This works, and we're going to use a background color of pound C8 C8 C8, which is a nice silverish, and which kind of goes with our theme. And it should have worked, and I just guess it's a little light. And just hold on 1 second. Oh, that's why. And I just made a mistake. I put the pound instead of the period to make it for a class. And now we should see that we have some margin. Okay, so and let's give our list a little bit of padding, and let's say padding top 10 pixels, because we want to keep the background color as well, and padding bottom 10 pixels, and we're going to give it a little border radius 3 pixels, and we want a border of 333, which is a really dark charcoal color. and the border didn't work. Oh, I'm sorry, yes. 1 pix solid, and that should work. And if you don't define the pixels and what type, it won't work. Okay, so now let's play with our spans. Our span class task name span dot task name span. So let's dot task name span, and display block. Since spans are by nature inline elements, they don't have a width or a height or a position. So display block, now they'll act as a div, and it'll automatically cause a line break. So let's just see what displaying block actually does. So this is our title right here, homework, and if we click, I'm sorry, homework for 373. Now you can see it's on its own line, and it's a block, and it's by default the whole width. So that's what we wanted, and I'm going to text align center, font weight bold, and font size 22 pixels. So now it'll get its own line, and it'll act as like a header. Okay, and we have our description. Our description is still, as you can see, inline. It's not the whole width. It'll just stick to the wall. So what we're going to do is we're going to display block. Oh, I'm sorry. Dot task description span. I hope I spelled that right. Yes, I did. And we want display block width 90%, margin left 5%, and we're going to hug it off the wall. Margin top 5 pixels, and so that'll kind of center it within the div, and it won't hug our homework, or I mean our title here. And as you can see, it has some padding, and let's give it some padding underneath, and it'll kind of center it within the div, which is kind of cool. And let's just give it some margin on the bottom. And it looks like we have separated tasks. Okay, so that's how we add our tasks. So next week, so now we're done. Let's see what happens. So now we have nice formatted tasks, sort of. We'll finish that next week. So what I'm going to do is add a task, and it says the Greg task was added. And I'm going to go back, and where's my Greg test? And it's perfectly styled because we kept it uniform with our index, and our JS has the same exact appending as it is in our index. So it'll append with the same exact format, and it'll look like it was there from the beginning. So that's how we add our tests. So next week what we're going to do is we're going to add the functionality to delete our tasks. We're going to be able to sign in and toggle between our test and someone else's task, and make this a little bit nicer, just to break it up so we don't have 3-hour lectures. And then so I figured I'd just break it up a little bit. Okay, thank you.